Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host, and we're glad to have you back listening to the show. We got a great guest today. Ian Horowitz he's an East Coaster from Philly and Baltimore. And we got a lot in common, man. We were just talking. I grew up in Baltimore, and I'm very familiar with Philly too, not too far away. And a great investor. He focuses on the fundamentals, guys. And I'm telling you, this is one you're going to want to take notes. Get your pens and pencils out and take notes. There's nothing to buy, nothing to sell, but you can participate if you'd like to in some joint ventures, perhaps. So Ian, first off, man, thanks for doing this. I know you're a busy guy. I know you're active, and we appreciate you being on today.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm excited too. I mean, I think we should have just recorded the pre-conversation to the interview where we were talking about how you live right near the old Orioles Stadium and how it relates to investing and just swinging the bat, getting on base, and you can't score unless you're on base. I mean, those are the conversations I love to have. So I'm excited to share some information today and help
Yeah.
your audience hopefully invest in some real estate or take the actions towards investing in real estate because it's the best thing that you possibly can do.
It is. It's quite frankly, it's how you buy your freedom. It's the best way to buy your own freedom. I've done several things. It's just so easy. Let's do this. If you wouldn't mind, you got an awesome background as a fireman. Would you mind talking about your mindset? Because we actually have policemen on our team, and we've had a couple of firemen make great investors, by the way. But talk about that transition, like the mindset. You're out there, you're doing your job as a fireman and you're starting to think about real estate, but that critical transition period, I want people to hear this because I'm telling you, anybody can do it. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. It's a fact. And you had some motivation to drive you to it. If you can share that, and then we'll jump into some meat and potatoes, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And it's funny that you bring this up because I love talking to realtors. I love talking to other first responders. I mean, you got to remember, like, when we were firemen for the city of Baltimore. So you watch The Wire, that's where I worked. You watch the riots that happened, that is where I worked, in the heart of the bad of the bad. And for us to start there with zero college education and build a 70 million portfolio in less than 10 years, it's wild to think to where we got. What was the mind shift change is the fact is that we were always trading time for money, but we were okay doing that, right? Because we were firemen. We love what we do, much like real estate brokers or any other person that loves what they do. In the end, you're really just trading time for money. You're not building a team. Like, there's no way for me to scale out of it. And while it's not like, obviously I'm talking this from a business mindset now, in real time, I'm looking at it going, oh man, I'm about to turn 30. My wife wants to have kids. I don't want my kids in daycare. I don't want her to have to work because just putting kids in daycare to have her work to pay for that is insanity. How do I afford a house? There's furloughs. There's changing our pension system. They're shutting companies down. Like, all these external forces are just coming in. And I finally had enough. And I said, how can I make money while I'm asleep at work? How can I make money if I'm in the grave? I mean, technically, I was in a deadly industry, right? Like, 3 months after we retired, 3 of our closest friends got killed in a fire. Like, someone who I worked with for 5 years, we were on the same ship together. She was killed in a fire 3 months after we retired, right? And that was always a fear in the back of my head of, like, what if I become incapacitated? How do I provide for my family? How do I spend more time? Because also side by side with that, much like real estate brokers, as you're trying to cut your teeth to get up in there, I'm working at the fire department and then I'm working a side job. I'm working 8 days a week. And I said, I want to be with family. I want to spend time. I want to earn money passively. I put it in quotations because it's the funniest word in the world, because it is a very active industry. But how can I do something that gives me a better lifestyle? And I just kept coming back to real estate. Think about it. If I died or got incapacitated at work and I couldn't work anymore, imagine turning over a construction company to your wife or to your significant other, and leaving them with all these open jobs versus saying, man, something just happened to my husband. I got to take care of my kids. And there's still this passive income that comes in. And that's what kept leading me to real estate, and really was the mindset of, I don't know that I want to do this for 20, 30, 40 years, right? Like we all grew up
Hmm.
in the 9/11 age, 2001. The core essential job of being a fireman is a beautiful thing
Yep.
and helping people. However, it's become highly politicized. It's not the forefront, and you get there, 30 years is a really, really long time. And it's like, man, you dedicate 30 years of your life and then boom, like Detroit, and Baltimore is not much better than Detroit sometimes. Their
Yep.
pension system went bankrupt. Could you imagine working for 30 years and the pension system's gone, Social Security's gone, all these things that you're supposed to count on are just gone and taken from you? And I just said, man, we need to control our own destiny. And this started out as a retirement project and has now blossomed into a beautiful business.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you sharing that because it's from the heart and it's authentic and genuine. And I've over the years I've taught five policemen and two firemen how to invest, and three of the policemen are actually on my team right now. And the one thing you said that came to mind, everything resonates. And the same thing. There was like, you know what? You're at the mercy of the politicians and the bureaucrats. If they screw up in taking care of your money, there's no plan B. It's and but the other thing too was the fear. One guy was saying, man, I've been there 20 years. He just retired, so he's now retired a full time investor like you. Um, Two other guys were coming right behind him, but he said the fear thing is like the way the world was changing. Like he was going out in the morning, he's like, man, what am I gonna if I pull some guy over for a speeding ticket? Is that all it's gonna be, or is he gonna whip out a gun? That's the kind of stuff that goes through your mind. So everybody listening, I'm not saying you need to have that kind of motivation to finally take action. What I'm telling you is if Ian can do it, right? You know, you can do it too. If I can do it, you can do it. You don't have to feel fear to jump into real estate. Be positively motivated, to get inspired, listen to other people's stories like Ian. So Ian, let's talk about one of those. Let's talk about your first investment. I think it was 2012. Take us down that road, and that'd be a great segue.
Yeah. And, if we go back to 2012, I guess I'm 29, still really haven't figured out life. I'm a fireman. I've been there for 4 years, finally starting to pay off some debt. My credit score is like barely 600. It's probably 570, 580. And I just remember talking to my wife, or were we married? No, we're not married. You're gonna get me in trouble here. I think I'm not. I'm just about to get married, or we just gotten married. And I said, there has to, if we want to have kids, how are we going to do this? And we had a lot of
Mhm.
discussions, and we had saved up $15,000. Now, mind you, I had a whole bunch of debt. Don't ask why I didn't just pay my debt off and fix my credit score, but we had $15,000 saved up, right? And we were talking about it, and her parents had owned a business, and they had a customer come in, and he was just like, he just stopped coming in one day. And they're like, hey, what happened? And he's like, well, I bought a house a year for the last 30 years. And now I got 30 houses that are all paid off and I'm living off that income. And it was a subsidized house. And I was like, dude, I want to do that. So doing some research, podcasts weren't as much of a thing then. And YouTube University wasn't as much as a thing back then, which is crazy to think because it's not that far ago. Went to the local real estate groups, went around, learned, just talking to people. And I bought our first house, paid a whopping $25,000, maybe put 25 grand into it. Who knows? We weren't really doing right accounting back then. Took a hard
Mhm.
money loan at some insane rate, like 15-5 or 16-6. And
Man.
well, the thing is, I did it, right? And when we got to the end, we got $1,250 on rent from a Section 8 tenant. And dude, that was the drug of choice, man. That $600-700 a month of free cash flow, that was working overtime. That was a whole paycheck. And I was like, dude,
Yep.
this is insanity. I have to do it again. And that first deal, again, I didn't do it right. I'm out there doing the plumbing. I'm out there doing the sheetrock. I'm out there piecemealing crap together. Um, I'm just trying to figure it out. We had a pretty good construction background, but still, I know I didn't do everything right. I know things took longer. I know that my budget wasn't 100% correct, but doing that
Mhm.
first deal, and I was nervous as hell. But my whole thought process was, well, dude, your credit score sucks now. You got a little bit of money saved up. You can do it again. You'll be fine. Plan B is you go work your 30-year career because you were going to do that anyway. and that's your backup plan. And it's like, you know what? Screw it. Let's go do it. And thank God we did that, because I bought house number 1, and within 6 months later, I bought house number 2, and within 2 years, we had 10 houses like that, producing cash flow. And that, dude, that's all I needed to see. It was one of the most powerful things that we ever did.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, that's pretty impressive going, from 0 to 10 in 2 years. And the thing is, I wish I could come up with the right words to this to describe what you just said, to grab people by the heart, but technically you had a plan B because you could always go back to firefighting. But the reality is you made the jump, you took the leap, you jumped off one side of the cliff, and you can see the other side. Your plan is to get there, but there's no guarantee. The reality is, though, at the end of the day, when you look back, being an employee has less of a guarantee than going out on your own and striking it on your own. And the fact is, when you do that, it's like it was the Mongols used to do this. They would go to attack a different country. They would sail their ships, and when the first thing they did when they landed, they burned their ships and they brought their wives and children with them. They were going to succeed because they didn't give themselves any other option.
Yep.
So, man, I appreciate you sharing that. So let's jump a little bit forward here. I know you're going and get into warehouse, or sorry, storage, self-storage, and multifamily. So talk about dive deep a little bit on the self-storage and the multifamily, because I started off with little duplexes and singles, eventually moved their way up, but kind of take us through that journey if you don't mind.
Yeah, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. Is like, I tell people all the time, is like, we were firemen, so you got to remember, like, we could not leave the scene until the fire was out. And I tell
Hmm.
people all the time, it's the same thing in our business. There's a fire burning, we're putting it out. So several years of doing single family houses, flips and rental properties, building a big rental portfolio, just doing the same thing over and over and over again, and really cutting our teeth, putting out fires, learning the systems, building the processes. What it did was it built us a nice Rolodex of banking contacts, investors, allowing us to basically take the leap to the next, what we consider to be the next level. And, we did a 7-unit apartment building here. We did a 34-unit apartment building that turns into 44, that turns into 76. The deals just start creeping up, getting a little bigger, bigger, bigger. But the problem was, where we are located in the Northeast, is there's a lot of institutional capital that chases our markets because they're primary markets. So what we said was, well, how can we diversify and continue to do bigger deals? And the thought of me owning an apartment building in Oklahoma or the Midwest,
Hmm.
because Baltimore is a very special location and we deal with a lot of crap to get
Hmm.
stuff done, especially during COVID. There's a lot of consumer protection laws. We said, well, we don't really want to own multifamily residential real estate outside of our network where we can control it, but we
Hmm.
can control self-storage remotely from our location and invest in other jurisdictions. So Louisiana, Mississippi,
Hmm.
Texas, Arkansas, and get into states that were pro-business, states that allowed you to
Hmm.
operate even during COVID, and an asset class that allowed you to operate during COVID. So it was all a natural progression of doing the same thing over and over and over again in the single family, building the system, building the processes, putting the employees in place that allowed us to scale to get to what we believe to be the next level. And that's ultimately how we ended up in multifamily and self-storage. Multifamily fits into our management team in Baltimore. If we can't buy it in the Baltimore metro area, we're probably not touching it. And for
Yep.
self-storage, that we have the whole nation, but we want to be in states that we're willing to operate in because they align with what our beliefs are in owning a business, and they don't have all kinds of consumer protection laws, all kinds of issues, tax issues,
Yep.
or any of those other things.
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live. Be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging, and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to realestateWithGaryWilson.com, click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care. Yeah. The other thing too that really helped a lot of industries, including real estate. And within real estate, self-storage went through a major renaissance when it comes to automation and technology. And I remember the old self-storage was they had to have some guy there at the house out front controlling the gate and the keys, all this stuff. Now it's all completely remote. It's, it's low overhead and you don't have kitchens and bathrooms and all that stuff,
Yeah, we operate 15 stores, about 700,000 square feet from our off. So our one manager lives in Baltimore. Our other manager lives in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Our call center agents are in Mississippi. And then we have boots on the ground at all the properties. But we basically run it from our control center or command center in Baltimore and run all those stores. I mean, people yesterday, like I was looking, we had 11 move-ins. We had a bunch of move-outs. I think we had 7 move-outs. So there was 18 transactions that took place yesterday with 0 interaction from our team, and they were all done online. And the other nice thing is there is no toilets. There are no heat calls. There is nothing that is major drama. Well, it's great when a tenant takes ownership of the property, like on the residential side. It's like, oh, cool. You really like, this is your site. This is your apartment. Thank you for taking care of it. And then they're like, call for a service call. You're like, hey, I'm going to go fix your heat. Well, you can't come in here now. Well, it's like, well, no, you called for heat, right? Like there's that ownership issue and everything's drama. Like I won't say drama, but everything's an emergency. Whereas in storage, it's like, yo, it's a metal box. And like, I know you're trying to move out, but you lost your key. Like that's not my emergency. You're going to have to wait 2 days till my guy can cut your lock off. Like you should, if you want your lock cut off, call a locksmith. I don't know what to tell you. Oh,
Right.
you moved in and there's an issue with the door. That's fine. We'll get out there. We can put you in another unit because our stores are so big and we have other availability that we can move them around to do what we need to do. I don't want to say there are no emergencies. There are a lot less emergencies in the storage space that allow, again, there's a lot of moving parts, but a little bit easier time to manage than say what multifamily is. So in the end, that's why we like storage. I agree with you. There's a lot of automation. There's a lot of consolidation. There's a lot of growth. There's additional revenue streams that we're allowed to charge for that allow storage to live on its own, breathe on its own, and be basically almost an autonomous business on its own, which is really fun. So,
Yeah. Well, the big thing is this is just from looking at the market itself, self-storage market, Americans love their crap, man. They just love their stuff, And I gotta tell you, that industry really took off in the late 90s. And there was a famous study done. I forget a graduate program did the study, and they said 2 things: self-storage and self laundry, whatever the
oh yeah,
fully automated laundry.
yep,
And both have taken off. Now it's car washes, by the way, but self-storage as long as the population grows, that market sector will continue to grow. Um, what we used to do with our multifamilies when we had garages, we started spinning the garages off separately and putting on, steel doors and things like that and renting them out separately for storage. We didn't have the big budget to go buy a bigger property, but self-storage property. There weren't a lot out at the time actually, but the demand was growing. We just said, look, we're going to rent out our apartments separate from the garages. The tenant can rent it too if they want, but it's going to be extra. It added a whole new layer of income to our bottom line.
yep.
So let's talk about the growth of your portfolio. I mean, you hit 70 million. That's just freaking awesome. How do you grow that? How do you manage it? And I'm guessing you've got I don't know if your wife helps you, but I'm sure you've got somebody helping your partner. But tell us about that because that's what I want to understand here is there's 2 parts to real estate investing. There's offense and defense. Offense is you're going out, you're scoring the hits, you're getting on base, you're swinging the bat, you're scoring points. Defense is you got to maintain your lead. You got to maintain those properties and that edge and the stay in profit. So can you touch if you mind touch on I know that could be another week's discussion.
Oh yeah,
But
no,
what you
I could definitely go for hours, and I know everyone's time's super valuable, but this is how you get defense hair. Um, but for
Yep.
those that aren't watching, I'm kind of bald. But defense, like there is offense, there is defense. What is the growth? Like, what did it take? One of the things that we set out, both my business partner and I, we wanted our wives. They both coincidentally kind of homemaker, I guess is the best word for it. They wanted to be home with the kids every day, and
Yeah.
we homeschool and all those fun things. So for us, our wives really aren't in the business much, but we do have a full blown team. I mean, we have 15 employees. So Ryan Tucker, he's our operations manager. He oversees the whole operation. He has project managers, he has maintenance guys, he has everyone under him to run it. And without him, we wouldn't be where we are today. I remember trying to hire him. We had no clue, which is crazy because we had quite a bit of houses, but paying him a salary that was more than our fire department salary at the time was just like, wait, what are we about to do? And we had no clue how we were going to pay for it, but it was the best hire we can make. The same as, real estate brokers hiring transaction coordinators, or something along those lines, and freeing up and allowing us to do what we love to do. Dan loves managing money. It's what he gets off on. He
Okay.
really, really enjoys it. He budgets every single day. I'm a visionary. I like going out, figuring out how we're going to grow. What's our next investment? We both share those ideas, but Dan really works on that, and I really work on the investor relations, and underwriting the deals of what we're going to look at going forward. So there are checks and balances, but I agree, man. There's times to play offense. There's times to play defense. Defense sucks, but you know what? That's what keeps you alive. And the problem is a lot of people, when they're playing defense, they just toss money at the problem. The difference is when we're playing defense, we get out there and work. We go out and grind. Money is not our first reaction to go fix something. You really need to go in there and inherently figure out what's wrong to allow you to play offense as much as possible. And hate, I hate when we're playing defense, because when we're sitting around not looking at deals, fixing odds and ends on our property, it drives me stir crazy. And I feel like the world's falling apart, but that's my personality type. I know that. Luckily, Dan and Ryan enjoy doing that. And then when I'm out looking at new deals, it's driving them up the wall because they're like, well, wait a second, we need to fix X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yeah, you fix X, Y, and Z. And by the time you're done with it, we need the next project, or not need, we want to do the next project. And it's a great checks and balances, to allow us to, hopefully one day to go win the Super Bowl. Or I joke all the time, my selfish goal is to get a jet. It's an unrealistic goal, but I got to put one out there, or to go ring the stock market bell. Just something so ridiculous. I mean, in 10 years for us to get where we are to today, it's never in a million years when I first started did I think I would get here. What's the next iteration? I don't know. I know we're going to keep looking at good deals, good opportunities. And obviously our next major goal is to get up over that 9-figure mark. But
Yep.
honestly, side by side with that, I might not care about that. I just want to do really good quality deals that produce cash flow. And if we only did one more deal for the rest of our lives, but that deal will pay us for the rest of our lives, then let's just do that one deal and let's find the best quality deals we can. And I think it's the same thing. You guys know as brokers, that 5,000, that $100,000 house that causes all the goddamn drama. It takes the same amount of work to do that it does to list $1 million house where the people are realistic. Money's not the end all be all. Getting the deal done is much more important than necessary every last penny on the table and working with the right client. So it's a similar thing. Just we apply that same skill set to investing.
Yeah. Well, I love your approach to risk management, and you're right. I know a lot of people that the fun part. Let's face it, the fun part is for most of us entrepreneurs is on the offense side. We like the thrill of the hunt. We like finding the deals. We like scoring points. But and then we find somebody, hire somebody, or throw money at the problem, saying that's going to solve it. But the reality is this is a great lesson that I've learned it, and then I got to meet Robert Kiyosaki in person, and then he validated it. He said, "Look, there's a difference between giving up control and giving up responsibility." He said, when you're running your own business, and as real estate investors, we are owning and running our own business. He said, you want to give up responsibility, you want to delegate responsibility and pay somebody to take responsibility, but you never want to give up control. So you never give up control. You're involved with it. You're not, Dan's doing the he's the implementer, but you're the visionary, when it comes to risk management, and that's ideal. You guys are no wonder you've succeeded. So let's talk about a story of in one of your successes, maybe something that was particularly challenging or something that just far exceeded your expectations. You know, every now and then, just like in baseball, man, the team that wins gets base hits. They don't
Hmm.
always swing for the fences. They get on base and then they drive people in. So every now and then, though, you do get a grand slam home run. I mean, you get my. I remember we get my daughter's first grand slam. She'd been playing ball for about 5 years, and it was the first game of the season. She was the cleanup batter. She was number four. She was a shortstop too. It was her first at bat, the first pitch and the first swing, and that ball's still probably sailing through the air somewhere, man. It was like unbelievable, you know. But
That's awesome.
so you got anything like that you can share to inspire people, you know?
Yeah. So we grinded it out for a hot minute. We did all subsidized housing in Baltimore. It's very popular to do because they pay pretty good. We're grinding it
Mhm.
out. We're still hitting the RIA meetings. People are asking us questions all the time. They want to learn. They want to learn. So we took the time, energy, and effort to write a book about subsidized housing. And it was out there. We were kind of marketing it. We didn't know what we wanted to do, but I get a phone call one day from a wholesaler, calls us up and says, "Hey man, you know, we have this 76 unit apartment building. We're going to wholesale it." And automatically I'm like, this thing's going to be overpriced. I'm out. I said, "Shane, thanks for calling me." He's like, "No, the seller wants me to track you down because she saw your book. She really wants to talk to you and a few other groups. We only want to make a small fee." And I said, "Well, Shane, why aren't you keeping it for yourself?" I give this guy the most credit in the world. He was mature enough to say, "This is not what I do. I do not want the property." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah.
So I said, "All right, man, I'll take the meeting," just thinking it's going to be bullshit. And so at the end of the conversation, he goes, "Oh, by the way, no, we're talking about a $5 million deal here." He says,
Hmm.
"She wants to owner finance it and hold 90%. I said, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Yeah, she wants to hold 90% back." And I said, "All right, whatever." So I walk over into Dan's office. I said, "Hey, Dan, just got a phone call from so-and-so, 76 unit apartment building. And, they want to owner finance 90% of it." He's like, "That's bullshit." Sorry, I don't mean to curse on it, your show, but that's bullshit. There's no way this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, "I don't know, man. I'm going to take the meeting. You can come or you want or not." He's like, "All right, I'll be there." So we go and take the meeting, have this conversation with the seller, really good rapport with her. But what she was doing is her mom owned the property, father was dead, and mom was 90 something, having in home care. And she was getting think about this, 76 units, no distributions. The management company was just straight screwing her over. She said, I need $20,000 a month to make this work for me. And I will owner finance this thing because I want to take care of my mom. Okay, so we went back, started working on some stuff. Well, she ended up going up with another group. And I called her one day and I said, "Hey, Judy," I said, "I know you're coming into some money. We have another opportunity. Are you interested in investing?" And she says, "Actually, that deal hasn't gone through yet. And these guys are being real jerks. I think I want to go with you. I'm glad you called me." Dude, 2 days later, we're in her lawyer's office, signed a contract right then and there. We're celebrating. But more importantly, what we did was we figured out how to pay her the most money, get her $20,000 a month distribution, negotiate 6 months of no payments. And then 16 months later from the date of purchase. Now, this is May of 2020, right? So we're like deep
Oh yeah.
COVID. Nobody knows what's going on. Or I'm sorry, June of 2020, we purchased this thing. 16 months later, we buy it for $5 million, put a $500,000 into it. We get a valuation of 9.8 million, pull out $7 million, walk away with a 7-figure payday. Dan and I, plus our investors, and allowed Dan and I to quit our jobs and move on and become full-time real estate investors. We did not, to be transparent, we did not retire, but that deal right there allowed us to quit our W-2 fire department jobs, and allow us to jump out and
Nice.
say, "You know what? We know how to do this. Let's go do it. Let's go crush it." And since then, since we've refinanced her, she's become one of our biggest capital investors. All the money that she owner financed to us, she has basically put back into all of our deals. It's been an awesome relationship. I'm glad we took the call. I'm glad we took the meeting. I'm
Yeah.
glad we persevered to follow up with her to say, hey, I know you're coming into some money. And it led down into another conversation. It's the best deal we've done to date. Well, I rephrase that. It's the most
Yeah.
life-changing deal that we've done to date. And I'm so grateful for it. I know Dan's grateful for it, and it really helped our team grow, scale, and get us to where we are today.
Yeah, man, that is an awesome story. And that the fact is that's the one that bought you your freedom. I mean, it all had everything been lit up to that point. No, absolutely no doubt about it. But that's the one you've got a grand slam home run and bought your freedom. I want everybody listening, let that sink in. If you haven't gotten to that point yet, I'm telling you, you know, it's I've invested. I've done well in the stock market. Done, my bread and butter has always been real estate. I do crypto on the side. That's fun too. But I'm telling you, there's nothing like real estate because it never goes to zero. Number one, it always goes up in value. Number two, it throws off cash flow with brick and mortar. I mean, it's is it sometimes not so glamorous? Yeah. I mean, I've come home at the end of the day sometimes covered in shit that I couldn't even describe to you. Sometimes I didn't even know what it was. But at the end of the day, man, I bought my freedom, and Ian, you did too. So you mentioned that this person. The thing I like about that, what comes to mind is you actually built the relationship first, and then the deal came through. See, that's critical. Focus on the human side of things, guys. I'm telling you, you always go further faster when you build relationships. So how can people? I know we're getting short on time here, but how can people work with you? I know you don't have anything to sell and that stuff like that, but you're obviously brought her in as an investor. How can we do the same ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to learn more about what we do, it's equitywarehouse.com. You can learn how we co-invest or co-lend with our friends and family. Like you said, we don't sell anything. Like, if you want to invest with us, great. If you don't, if you want to learn more, I interact the most on Instagram, Equity Warehouse. If you want to shoot us a DM, I'm always happy to talk to people. But the most important thing is if you just want to learn how these deals work, because you never know, you might uncover a self-storage deal and you're like, well, who do I bring this to? It's like, oh, I remember how Ian set that up. Maybe I can go do it myself, or let me call Ian and say, hey, I got this deal. I don't know what we can do with it, but I want to take a ride with you. That's what we look to do. So we got a bunch of case studies on equitywarehouse.com, and we put content out all the time on all the social sites under Equity Warehouse. And like I said, if you want to try to get a hold of me, DMs on Instagram is the best place to find me, and I will communicate with you and reach back out. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I wish I had something cool to sell or drop or all that. I don't do that. I just enjoy coming on, telling our story. Because if we
Yeah.
could do it, you can do it. You gotta remember, we're two dumb firemen that barely got out of high school that have built a crazy ass portfolio. And if we can do it, I think everybody should do it. And really
Yeah.
create your financial freedom and your success. And like you said, buy back your time. It's a no brainer in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. The book you wrote, you know, I I've written the first couple books I wrote them to help people. Uh, they're like educational, and a lot of people I still get feedback on them. Like the stuff I put in there, I had professional, you know, publishers on it saying, "Don't put that stuff in there." I'm like, why? And it's like, because you're going to scare people. Like, well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give them the freaking reality. This is, yeah, you can make a lot of money, but man, you gotta think. You gotta really get the education, get the information, then make really good action. Take really good action steps, and you get good results. And it's not all upside. It's not all a bed of roses at the end of the day, when you look back, it is. It is because you buy yourself your freedom. But I bet that book, man, would probably like mine I didn't make for profit. Now I do I write for profit, but back then it was all about I just want to tell the story. So share that too if you could do that. And that's if I offer
Yeah.
one suggestion, do that.
Yeah,
But
it's
go ahead, I'm sorry.
it's subsidized the book. You can check it out on I know it's over on Amazon, subsidized. It's subsidized the book or look up my name as an author and you'll find it. I can get the link for the show notes, but yeah, like I said, I like you said, I don't do it for profit. It literally lives over there. It just kind of breaks even, but you know what? It is true stories of what it took us to
Mhm.
do, and it's mostly about subsidized rentals, but there's a lot of information about there. If you're going to buy a rental property, some things you should consider. Do you put ceiling fans in? Do you put screen doors in? Do you put garbage disposals in? Those are all considerations. How we paint them, how we systematized what we did, so we were able to rinse and repeat over and over and over again. And I know some of it seems like common sense, but it's just good to hear, and it's good to reread, and it's good to, reinforce that somebody else does it the same way you do. So if you want to grab a copy, it's over on Amazon. And we appreciate the support, and go from there.
Hey, now on the Instagram, is it your personal name or is it Equity Warehouse?
No, it's Equity Warehouse. It's Equity
Equity
_
Warehouse.
Warehouse. Yep. And you can find us on there. We put out content all the time, bunch of reels, content, and you can see more about what we do and more about what we're feeling in real time. That's really it. Like, you got to align yourselves with people like yourself that are doing it. They're not selling you anything. It's like, yo, I really do this every day, and this is really what's happening in my life at this time. And I'll show you the good, the bad, the ugly, because we all know the influencers only show you the good, or they rent the good, right? They rent the jets, they rent the fancy cars that are not their cars, right? Like, so this is really what we do. I dress like this every day. I wear a hoodie and shorts. I drive an old car. So is my business partner. We're not flashy. Just real people doing real things, and happy to share our story, and love telling people that if we can do it, you can do it.
It's funny. I always tell the people on my team, when someone's coming to want to be in front of you and speak, look at what's behind it. Look at the motivation, what's behind the scenes. So they have a sales machine, or they have a education machine. So focus on the ones that are education based. Somewhere along the line, you're going to either be a partnership on a project, you're going to buy a training program, whatever. But if they're leading with a sales machine, chances are they're going to sell a lot of stuff, but very few people are going to actually use it and succeed. That's a fact. When you work with somebody that's actually walking out there with you, putting on their work boots and carrying their tool belt, that's what I did. And that's how I got attracted to all those people. Now I'm not retired, but life's a lot more fun. But so everybody listening, Equity Warehouse. Okay, just remember that on Instagram. And Ian, thanks a million for doing this. This was awesome. One of my favorite podcasts of all time. And I can't wait to get this out on the airways, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to have it come out, and I appreciate you letting me come on and share our story with your audience.
You got it. And for you listening, thanks for participating. I hope you got a lot of us. Leave a review when I asked that a lot, but this is one. Leave a 5-star review for this one. I mean, Ian deserves it. So give him a pat on the back, man. Do the review, and that's what makes the podcast world go round. So we appreciate that too. So God bless you all, you and your families, and we'll see you on the next Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.